Hi friends, welcome to In Bliss, and today I feel very happy to introduce a very special guest with me who needs no introduction. I mean, most of you would have heard her or seen her asking questions from Osho, and Osho appointed her as his personal editor. She's also the co-founder and co-director of Osho Samasati, and above all an Osho devotee for more than 45 years. So I really want to welcome Maneesha James here to In Bliss. I would like to know more about how did you come to Osho and how was life with Osho around you?
Briefly, I'd trained as a general nurse and then a midwife, and became very interested in the question of what makes people happy, because as a nurse I'd seen a certain patient I remember in a really bad condition. He was in a lot of pain, he had multiple sclerosis and he was dying, and he was always cheerful and really grateful to us whenever we went to administer to him. And at the same time there's a staff nurse who seemingly had everything going for her. She was intelligent, pretty, popular, she had money and a red sports car, and at one point she made a suicide attempt. And it really struck me, I guess I was about 19 at the stage of what is happiness? It's clearly not to do with anything material. And those two people really made an impact on me. And so I was planning to, having got my nursing qualifications, to come to India and start saving the world from Calcutta. But with this question that came up is, what is happiness? It's clearly, as I say, nothing to do with one's material circumstances. So my search sort of became inwards, and I decided to study psychiatric nursing. So I left Australia and went to England, studied psych nursing, got very disillusioned with psychiatry. It was very mental, and it didn't throw any light on my quest of where is happiness. So I started exploring. It was the 70s in London. It was a very exciting time. The humanistic growth movement had just taken off in London, and so I joined some of the workshops there and found at some point that I'd explored those to the limit, I felt. Then I heard of a Tibetan Buddhist monastery in Scotland, so I went and stayed there for a week. Then I heard of a Sufi farm in Oxfordshire, so I went down there. And then I heard of a Gurdjieff group on Haverstock Hill, so I went there. And when I look back, it's clear I was on a search, but I didn't see it like that. I just feel I was incredibly unconscious, and it was that I came to Osho in spite of myself rather than because of myself. I felt like I was a lumbering old buffalo, really unconscious, just, oh, that looks interesting, go and explore that, oh, what about that? And that really existence was nudging me along. So a miracle actually that I stumbled across Osho, and I had read a book of his in London, and unbidden the realization came to me, this man knows the truth. It was amazing, because I'd actually had some resistance to gurus, and I didn't read the book thinking, well, does he know the truth? But I just read it, and I loved the simplicity of his expression. I loved the fact that he has such a sense of humor. And as I say, unbidden, as I was reading one day, I thought, he knows the truth. And I asked him about that happening some years later. However, I was a very strong-minded, haven't changed a lot, very strong-minded, pig-headed young woman. I was 27 at this time, and I didn't need a guru. I didn't need a father figure. I didn't need anyone to tell me what to do. I was quite clear what I was going to do with my life. And I was on the way back from England to Australia. I'd been away 4 years, and a sannyasin whom I met in London said, why don't you go and visit Bhagwan, as he's then known. And he had just moved up to Pune from Woodlands in Mumbai. This was in 1974. He'd been in Pune for 6 months by the time I did make it there in October 1974. And I walked into, I was going to go chilly and telling you about this. Walked into the darshan porch and saw a beautiful man sitting there, a bit like I'm sitting, but much more gracefully, with his legs crossed, one hand resting on the other, beautiful long beard, huge brown eyes. And there was immediately a sense of familiarity, which totally took me by surprise. I thought I was going to meet someone new. So I sat down and watched other people, his people, with their questions, and then visitors coming to his feet and being offered sannyas, and then taking sannyas. And he'd said to the girl before I was called up, and you're ready for sannyas? And she'd nodded and put the mala on her, and then it was my turn. So OSHO, chatted, and then I said, yes, I'm just here for a few weeks and I'm going on to Australia. He said, and what about your sannyas? And I had two reactions in my head. One was, what does he mean, my sannyas? As though everyone's got a sannyas and it's just a matter of when they take it. I'm not going to take sannyas. And so that little rebellious, stubborn woman was there inside. And then also, why is he asking me? He told the girl before me she was ready. I mean, I don't want it, but am I ready? And so that was going on my head, and then a third voice came out and said, because he'd said, think about your sannyas. I just said, I'm so fed up with thinking. And he laughed. He said, that's the kind of people I want around me, people who are fed up with thinking. And so then it seemed just very natural, nothing else needed to be said. I was being lassoed with a mala, and he was explaining my name, Ma Prem Maneesha, which means love's wisdom, or to love wisely. And I haven't told you this, but in the previous years, for 6 years earlier, there was such an inner restlessness in me. As I said, I went to these different Sufism, Buddhism, Gurdjieff encounter, exploring, and I kept looking and moving on. It was like an inner restlessness.
Yes.
And it was only that night, from that night, and this was 45 years ago, the restlessness went.
Yeah.
And I felt I was meant to meet Osho, and this is what my life is meant to be. And I haven't wavered from that feeling since then, 45 years ago.